Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Kopanski, and thanks for joining us for today's Best Practice webinar. Today, we'll be covering 5 time-saving automations for advisors, brought to you by Wealthbox and Advisor Tech Partners. A couple of housekeeping items to cover before we do jump in. This presentation is, of course, being recorded. So if you wanted to share it with your colleagues or rewatch it in the future, you definitely will have the ability to do that. And of course, at the very end, we will be opening up a Q&A session so you can enter in your questions. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A button. Enter in your questions, and we'll be able to address your questions for you towards the very end. So let's get into some introductions here. The host for today will, of course, be myself representing Wealthbox. For anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Chris Kopanski. I head up customer education here at Wealthbox. A little bit of background. I've been with Wealthbox for over 9 years now. It's been over 9 years. Time really does fly. In that time, working with thousands of firms, helping them get set up with Wealthbox and really ensure that they're getting the most out of their CRM. Speaking of CRM, for anyone that's not familiar with Wealthbox, Wealthbox is the #1 rated CRM for financial advisors, known for its ease of use and high adoption. If you would like to see why so many advisors love Wealthbox, you could head over to wealthbox.com, click on Book a Demo to learn more. I am also joined by Jeff Rusin, co-founder and CMO of Advisor Tech Partners. Jeff, I don't want to steal your thunder. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about Advisor Tech Partners.
Hey, Chris, thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm Jeff with Advisor Tech Partners, and we build workflows, processes, and automations for financial advisory firms who use Wealthbox. So Matthew, the co-founder, and I started this thing up a while back, and we worked at an RIA together and then branched out afterwards because we were working together on so many projects, and then figured we could bring automations and processes to firms who use Wealthbox all over the country. So
awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining today. As I mentioned, kind of before we even got started, you are the subject matter expert of automation here. So we're going to start this off with kind of a one-on-one conversation. For anyone here that hasn't joined one of those before, we do kind of go screens off and we just have a face-to-face, one-on-one conversation for you all to join in on and listen in on. And again, there's going to be that Q&A at the very end, so definitely feel free to enter in any questions if you do have any follow-ups. Now, when we do talk about these best practices and kind of host these kinds of conversations, we always like to start at the very top, just kind of define what it is that we're talking about. So, Jeff, from your perspective, I think this is more definition based, but what do we mean by time-saving automations for advisors?
yeah, so we're thinking about the tasks that need to be done over and over again. They're repeatable and they happen inside of Wealthbox CRM. So when we're thinking about automations that can happen inside of Wealthbox, we're looking at things such as, Calendly and OneSub. So when a specific meeting type is scheduled, it's going into Wealthbox correctly, categorized correctly, so you can get those awesome reports and dashboards basically automatically without having to do the CSAs, associate advisors, and maybe lead advisors having to go in there and manually find those annual reviews and intro calls and, categorize them correctly.
Sure. Yeah, and can you explain how automation would simplify an advisory workflow by reducing some of those repetitive tasks?
Yeah, it totally simplifies, at the end of the day, with the example I just said, simplifies reporting. And so there's no need to worry about human error or worrying about dropping the ball, because so many things can happen automatically. As long as it's a repeatable process, you can build it out, and it will save your team so many hours and get you the best numbers possible.
Sure, yeah. So let's kind of unpack that a little bit. It'll save you hours, it'll get you the best numbers. Why is saving time through automation critical for growth and client service? I know kind of saving hours, okay. Well, what are those hours used for, right? So why would you say that it's critical for growth?
Well, a lot of the times, Matthew and I, we run into firms where, in order to keep the lights on, in order to keep the cash flow coming in, they had to serve clients in a way where, they're always there for them. They thought that was the best way to serve them, to keep bringing on new clients. But then there becomes this point where, you need to scale and grow, get the processes down, and start to automate things. So you don't want to end up in a position where you're just taking client calls all the time, when you can automate things. Like, I'm going to show an example in a second. such as promoting the team when somebody becomes a client. So they're not reaching out to you as the advisor and reaching out to the team because that's what they're good at. They're probably better than the owner at client service stuff. And there's so many things you can automate. So I'm excited to show a few examples.
Yeah, definitely. And with you speaking with so many different firms and really understanding some of the needs that they have, kind of looking at that from a slightly different perspective, where would you say that advisors actually struggle with their own time management and efficiency today?
I feel like they don't have things like their days broken out in a way where they can actually get things done step by step. So if they're constantly just picking up the phone, like I said, and replying to client emails all the time, there's no really room for business development. There's no room to make the business better in a way of working on the business. You're always in it. So automations can help, relieve you of spending time on things that are kind of unnecessary and bring you back into the realm of working on the business where a lot of you should be as owners.
Sure. Yeah, and you had mentioned a couple of different examples of automations already that we're going to be taking a look at here in a little bit. But let's get a little bit more technical on that with automating some of that. So how can automations streamline everyday advisor workflow? So what is it actually doing? Is it just completely taking care of certain things? How can these automations streamline that?
In many ways, it is taking care of everything. So I'll go back to the example of the scheduling. That's one of the most important ones. So when someone's scheduling a meeting with you, depending on the meeting type, let's use introductory meeting as an example. When somebody schedules that, they need to be added to Wealthbox as a contact, which can happen automatically as a prospect. The intro meeting workflow needs to kick off, so the team is held accountable for what they need to do to get ready for that introductory meeting and any post-action steps that need to happen. An opportunity needs to be launched in your intro meeting column inside of the opportunity section. And all of that happens instantaneously when you have your automation set up correctly. Taking all that manual work out of it, and worrying that things are going to fall through the cracks.
Perfect. That answers a question that I had in a little bit as well, of kind of really understanding that scheduling, but it's a lot, right? It's a lot of time that normally manually you would be spending, or your entire team would be spending. So let's talk a bit more about kind of idealizing some of that and understanding what could be an automated process and kind of really talking about building those. What would you say are some best practices for building some of these automated processes that really align with your firm goals?
Yeah, for sure. So probably a lot of you listening or watching this webinar have heard of Zapier before. It's a tool where you can connect different apps together. And Wealthbox has one of the greatest integrations with Zapier. So in terms of getting automations built at your firm, I would have the operations person, COO, or anyone who's kind of head of operations take control of this and get down during a team meeting, like have a specific team meeting or multiple team meetings about what things do we do over and over again that can be automated, and start going to the whiteboard and start thinking about those repetitive tasks that are kind of draining but so necessary, and maybe look for those tasks that are falling through the cracks currently, right? And kind of put a permanent band-aid on it.
Yeah, definitely. And you talk about the scheduling aspect of it and kind of all the individual things that could really be automated. Let's talk about another example that you had mentioned. You kind of name dropped a couple different examples, but let's talk a little bit about automating the lead capture, right? Which is, there's overlap with scheduling as well, with, creating that record. But how can automating the lead capture side of things and the follow-up improve prospect conversions? Is there a direct correlation there?
Yeah, so let's say someone goes to your website and they fill out a lead form of some sort, or they're leaving information on some form that you've built out. You can make it so upon submission, that information is all going to Wealthbox, and it can start some sort of like workflow that you have to reach out to that new lead/prospect. It can also put a new opportunity, just like that scheduling automation that I just spoke of before. It can also, then you can, it's not just limited to Wealthbox, but there's other tools you can connect it to. So firstly, when someone fills out that lead form, then it would do all the Wealthbox steps, and then maybe we could have it go into a Slack channel and notify everybody who needs to know. Maybe there's some sales advisors at your firm that need to hop on the phone immediately, right?
Perfect. Yeah,
So,
that definitely does. There's a lot, right? And I'm a huge fan of Zapier, so there's definitely a lot that you can add on there. Let's kind of shift gears a little bit and let's talk about consistent emails that you might want to start sending out to clients. I think there's, the benefit of why sending consistent emails and kind of standardizing that is kind of well known already, making sure that your clients are getting what they signed up for. But let's talk about connecting that with automation. So how does consistent email automation help advisors stay top of mind with their clients?
well, in terms of emails themselves, I'm going to split this into two: email marketing. So, with the email marketing side of things, ensuring that inside of your email marketing software, such as MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Kit, there's so many out there, and we don't have a preference, but making sure that when something happens in Wealthbox, when they're going from prospect to client, that they're being removed from the prospect audience in your email marketing and being added to the client. So you're not sending prospecting emails to clients. So that's the email marketing side of things. And then in terms of like client follow-up, let's just say we have an annual review workflow open and there is a step for the lead advisor to have a follow-up email for the client. Then we can make it, this is such an awesome example. We can make it so when that step is complete, automatically in Gmail or Outlook, a draft email is being, or an email is being put into the drafts, and it has the correct subject line, it has the email template, and it's being sent to the right person. Because you don't want to send a client just a template email after an annual review. You actually want to get your AI notes, which I think Wealthbox is coming out with very shortly here, right? Take a look at your AI notes and then cater that email to the client. So that's an automation. When a workflow step is complete, it will automatically put it in your drafts, so you don't have to spend your days staggering emails. You can time block at the end of the day, so you're in client follow-up email mode.
Awesome, perfect. And there's a lot that you're covering here. There's a lot that you're talking about,
Yes,
and I'm sure a lot of people
absolutely.
that are on the call are interested in what you're saying, but the big question is how, right? And I know that in a minute here, you're going to actually share what that looks like and possibly even some next steps if any folks want to actually do this themselves, or who do they reach out to if they need your help with setting that up. So we'll definitely talk about that. But kind of switching gears a little bit further with Wealthbox and automating all of this with Wealthbox, there's also the other side of Wealthbox that really promotes efficiency, which is with the integrations, right? And I'd love to hear your perspective on where you bring this into conversation, not necessarily directly with automation, but how everything kind of stacks up together. But the kind of main idea being, how can connecting your tech stack with Wealthbox with some of those integrations create a smoother workflow? And this is a topic that I always love talking about because of a lot of enhancements that we're consistently rolling out, with a recent workflow
Yeah,
enhancement that allows you to send directly to your partner, or even with some integrations just being automated, right? With just because that contact is created automatically, all these other integrations are going to do their thing. So is it automation because of something that was built? Not directly, but it benefits from some of that automation. But Jeff, I know that you talk with clients all the time as well, with your own clients that are using Wealthbox, that are integrating with their tech stack. How does that kind of come into the conversation? Is there anything that you would maybe add to that?
yeah, absolutely. So a lot of what we talked about on this call already has been that scheduling automation and launching the correct workflow. So a lot of the times during the implementation phase, our clients or financial advisors want to get their clients onto, or get the ball rolling in Schwab and in Right Capital. So when that implementation meeting workflow, you know, pops up because that meeting was scheduled, then the post-action steps can use those integrations that Wealthbox has built out and make the process super seamless. So you're kind of leveraging automation and leveraging Wealthbox's awesome integrations, and it makes for something great.
Right. Yeah, it's just a really nice marriage of
It
automation.
is.
You take care of those one-to-one personal things, but everything that's kind of operations back end Automations are the answer. So we'll now kind of get into our specific offerings a bit more. We'll kind of start with Wealthbox. For anyone that's not familiar, we'll cover a little bit of Wealthbox. What is Wealthbox? Quick high level, and I'll cover a couple of specific features that specifically Jeff is actually going to be talking a bit more about in a couple of minutes as he's unpacking a bit more of how do these automations actually work? What is required to get those to work? So I'll go ahead and pull up my screen and we'll take a quick look at some of those features here in Wealthbox. Let me just make sure that that is there. Perfect. Okay, so what we're currently looking at is just the homepage of Wealthbox, right? This is where you would go to log into your account. Wealthbox is a web-based CRM, so you don't need to install anything, or you don't need to have anything running separately from what you already likely have open, your web browser. So you go to wealthbox.com and you log in. When you do log in, you are taken to your home page. The great thing about the homepage in Wealthbox is that it is kind of a one-stop shop for everything that you need to know. And it also serves the purpose of being kind of a good reset point. After a client meeting, you go back here and see what's next, right? So just to get a quick idea of what we're looking at, across the top, we have the customizable name of your firm. You have your own name at the top right. I'm currently logged in as Brad Creedon, who is an advisor with ABC Advisors. You have your main navigation throughout the left-hand side, including your emails, your contacts, tasks, workflows. Jeff had mentioned this very briefly, but with our new meetings and AI note taker features that is going to be released very, very soon. Won't be getting too much into that today, but definitely look out for some information on that. But what else we're looking at here is actually one of my favorites. I don't want to look over this. I don't want to skip this, but a recently viewed section on the bottom left here, so you can easily pick up where you left off. And then we have these different components, which represent your upcoming activities. So your day or week at a glance, what meetings do I have going on? What tasks or workflow steps should I be working on or completing? As we scroll down, we do get some kind of firm-wide items like workflows that my team is working on, special dates like client birthdays and anniversaries or client since dates, and active opportunities. So this right here is the answer to that question of how is this a good reset point? Why would I be going here? Because you see everything. Right away, you see the most critical things that you should be focusing on, that you should be working on. Then the other components that we see here in the center will, of course, be your publisher and the associated activity stream. There's a lot of capabilities in Wealthbox that kind of a hat tip to social media, and the activity stream is one of those, because you're already used to things like this on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on X. You see the stream of everything that's happening in the world, within your friend groups. This is what Wealthbox has, but specific to your office. So you're easily able to collaborate with your colleagues by adding replies, by liking these updates, and really, even if it's just you, just seeing what you are up to, seeing what is the last thing that you worked on. So from here, we'll see notes, we'll see new contacts being created, tasks being assigned or completed. We'll see workflows being started or progressed through that process. So the activity stream truly is kind of a top-down view of what is my team up to. At the very top of the activity stream, we do also have filtering capabilities to remove certain users from your view if you don't really want to see what the marketing team is up to. They're constantly adding notes. You might not need to see that right away. You can also choose the type of activity you're looking for. And of course, you have a keyword search. So you could easily type in a keyword and see exactly what you added here that matches that keyword, whether it be notes or other activities with that name. But let's look back up at the very top, that publisher. It's exactly what it sounds like. It allows you to add new updates into Wealthbox, add new CRM activities, right? So anything that you might want to add, or most things, you can do right here from the homepage without leaving the homepage. So from here, I could add a note, I can create a contact, assign a task, schedule a meeting, create an opportunity, again, without clicking away from my homepage. And that's the main benefit of the publisher. You don't have to click away and add more clicks to your day-to-day. You want to add a quick note because you got a call, get that in there. You can use the built-in @mentioning feature to relate it directly to the client and save a lot of time. So as an example, let's say I did just receive a call from a client. I could use my @ to activate a search feature. Another hat tip to social media, you would normally be tagging friends. Here, you're relating a note to a client. We hit the @ start typing in the client's name. I'm looking for Delilah Jones, which is the second option. I could use my arrow key on my keyboard, hit enter, and finish up my note to confirm our upcoming meeting. And I'm all set. I hit post. I don't know if anyone's keeping count. That was 2 clicks. In just 2 clicks, that note is now added to Wealthbox. It is archived. It's worm compliant. It's in there for good. And it appears in 3 different places. The homepage right here, the contact record, and it rolls up to the household. So it's that kind of efficiency that you'll find all throughout Wealthbox. A couple more details I wanted to add on the note capability overall. There's a lot of formatting options that we have at the top. We can dictate our note with the built-in transcription feature as well. So if you wanted to quickly just hit the microphone and say, just got a call from Kevin, he's going to be going on vacation to Thailand for 3 weeks. There it is, just using my computer microphone. If I don't like to type with my keyboard, or if I just prefer to speak because I just got off the phone, I could easily do that. I can also tag a note that will allow for easier reporting or just easy labeling of what that note had to do with, whether it was a phone call or an in-person conversation. And of course, templates. Standardization is a pretty common part of Wealthbox, standardizing your notes, your tasks, of course, your workflows in general. Those are all templated that you can pull up whenever you need them. So now let's actually go into a client record page here and talk about some of the features that we'll see there. And we'll focus in on some specific items that Jeff will mention here in a bit. So I can actually click on the client's name directly from the activity stream. What's interesting about this is that it'll slide out with a quick view, again, without me leaving the homepage. So I can see exactly who I'm working with here. I could call her back, but let's actually click on her name again, or I could click on this icon at the top right and open up that contact record page. So a couple of different things that you'll notice here right away when we pull up a contact record. You'll notice that the layout, the actual look of this page, is very similar to the homepage. That ties into the intuitive user interface of Wealthbox and just the intuitive nature of Wealthbox, so that you don't have to relearn every single page that you're on. You're comfortable with the homepage. You're going to be comfortable with the contact. You're going to be comfortable with the projects. You're across the board going to know exactly where to go to find what you're looking for with those upcoming activities on the right and that publisher and activity stream. Of course, this is the individual, so everything is going to be specific to the individual here, with upcoming activities being specific to Delilah Jones. The activity stream now only showing us things related to Delilah, and of course, the publisher allowing us to add things directly related to Delilah right away. So now a couple of things that I wanted to point out as we're looking at this main layout on the contact record page, things that Jeff is going to bring back up here in a little bit. As we take a look at our upcoming activities, there's a couple of different things that will be referenced in automating. And Jeff had already mentioned a couple of those with just kind of creating those items for you or starting the appropriate workflows, right? So you'll see these items automatically started for you because of other things that are happening. And that'll appear in your main tasks list or directly on the contact, where you'll see what exactly you have to do. Within the upcoming activities, you'll also notice opportunities, right? Creating those active opportunities on the contact record. That is something that can be completely automated as well. And I won't steal too much of Jeff's thunder in kind of talking about that, but all of that will tie directly into the contact. Events, of course, with scheduling, something that Jeff had mentioned, those meetings will not only be added in Wealthbox, but they'll also be related to the client. Some of those things will happen automatically. And then as we scroll down, so we see that this is a contact record, and we do see this kind of quick view snapshot with contact info and some tags. As we scroll down, there's other pieces of information that are very important on the client record page. Contact details, for instance, is where you could track things like your client's social security number, their mailing address, websites, or other responsibilities within the team, as we call contact roles. But there's also where you'll find things that you might want to change, such as the contact type, right? The contact type is another thing that Jeff had mentioned during that onboarding process. You might want to shift that over from prospect to client, and that's something that Jeff will get into as well. We do have a ton of options for custom fields as well. Custom fields can be created as a text field, date field, drop down, checkbox, a dollar amount, percentage, just numeric value, or even a hyperlink. So there's a lot that we could do there, and that can be automated as well. And really the final kind of thing here to point out on the client record page here is going to be that send to that we referenced a couple of times with a lot of our integration partners. You'll find a lot of these features as some of the tools that Jeff had pointed out. Schwab, we will be able to directly push that data that you might have gathered from that form on your website or from that Calendly link. You could push that out to Schwab into their digital envelope capability, or push that out into Right Capital start opening up those financial plans and start writing those. We do also find integrations at the very top of the activity stream with different tabs. This is where we'll find details like their accounts pulling in, with some other examples that might pull in some risk analysis or risk scores, like with nitrogen. So we'll see some of those here as well as some additional information that is built in to the client in Wealthbox, all of which is supported within some of these tools that Jeff was talking about as well. So that's your homepage and your contact record. Those are arguably the most common places that you'll be in Wealthbox. Wealthbox is a CRM, so the focus here is on the customer or on the client, where you'll be tracking that relationship, right? With CRM being customer relationship management, this is what it's all about. Then you have these different activities that you're able to relate to the client: tasks, workflows, calendar, opportunities, and that's where we really see the value of automation. So if you do want to learn more, definitely check out wealthbox.com. You could click on book a demo to schedule a one-on-one if you're not currently using Wealthbox. If there's some features that you are wanting to learn more about because you are using Wealthbox, but maybe you're not using them, you can check out some of our resources as well. But with that being said, let's go ahead and continue with the conversation. Let's actually see the how, right? The how are some of these integration or automations built out that Jeff was talking about. So Jeff, over to you. You could go ahead and pull up some of those slides and we'll get into some details there. So yeah, go ahead and jump into it.
Right. So I'm super excited to show some examples here. And so the first one is going to be the one where you're promoting your team. So this is one of the first ones that I've talked about, that it's a possibility that when a client or someone goes from a prospect to a client inside of your CRM, that the team is being promoted. So upon the type or the contact type being changed to client, the CSA is automatically going to be sending an email from their email to that new client. And then it will go into a sequence of emails where a week later, the associate advisor will send their introduction, let them know what they're responsible for. And as you keep going on over time, then we'll eventually get to the lead advisor and the owner. But what this does is takes the stress off of the lead advisor and the owners, and kind of shows the clients that the CSAs and associate advisors are there for them when clients have questions. So when the type is changed inside of Wealthbox, then this can automatically be kicked off through Wealthbox via Zapier to your Gmail or Outlook. And I'd like to mention here that like the email from CSA, that will actually be coming from your CSA. The email from associate advisor, that will actually be coming from them. So it's not like you're sending it from your marketing email. This is coming straight up from your team members. So
awesome. And one thing that, if I may jump in here, a common question that I get on Zapier is how does it work, right? And what we're looking at here, that is a trigger, and then each one of those boxes is an action, right? So it's individual things that are happening for you so that you don't have to do that. And that's always, there's so much that you could do with this. This is a really good example. Thank you.
Yeah, and so kind of piggybacking on what Chris said there. So the top thing that you see kind of right here, that is the trigger that he's talking about. And that's the only thing that needs to happen for the rest of the all of the actions underneath it to happen. I'd like to clarify that this is all one automation. It's just too long. We had to split it into two. But you can see it goes from the contact type changed all the way to 4 weeks later, where they finally get the email from the owner. But I'll move on to the next one here. Okay, so this is the scheduling automation. This one's super exciting. We put Calendly and OneSub on here. We know Calendly is used, a scheduling platform that's used by a lot of advisors out there. And we know OneSub is also popular too, especially among the LPL people out there. So when somebody, in this example, it's an introductory meeting, but this should be an automation that you have for all of your meetings. But we wanted to use the intro meeting example here because there's an extra step in it. And that's so first, when the prospect schedules the intro meeting, it finds or creates the contact. So it's going to see if the contact is actually in Wealthbox yet. If not, it will add that new contact, add them as a prospect, and then it will add the intro meeting to the calendar or add the event into Wealthbox and categorize it correctly so you can run data on it later. The next action is the intro meeting workflow will be launched automatically and will be related to the that prospect that schedules. So you're going to see that all on the homepage that Chris mentioned. And if you go to the contact itself, you're going to see all of that on the contact as well. And then it gets into the add the opportunity to that first stage in the opportunity pipeline that you guys have built out. And again, you're going to see that on the person's contact and in the feed once somebody schedules. So it's super intuitive, and you'll get those notifications on your feed and in the contact immediately. All right, we'll go to the next one here. So this is the automation that I explained earlier, where let's say you're a busy lead advisor, you have annual reviews happening all the time, and you're sending follow-ups or annual review follow-ups all the time. So what we do is the trigger is workflow step is complete. We identify in the workflow which step needs to be completed for the automation to continue to get that email, that template email, into your drafts folder. So then when you have that 30 minutes at the end of the day, you can get into email follow-up mode and efficiently go through each of the emails that got saved into your drafts folder and knock them all out, referencing your notes that you had during the meeting. So this one's super helpful as well for time management, and ensuring that you're staying on the ball throughout the day and not getting sidetracked with client follow-up. And then the next one is the email marketing automation, where when the contact type changes to client, we want to make sure we look good to the clients and are not sending them prospecting emails. Like imagine sending an email where you're offering them an intro meeting when they just became a client. You don't want that. So when the contact type changes to client, then it goes into your email marketing software. This can be any email marketing software for the most part. And the actions are that it looks for that the contact was changed to a client, removes the prospect tag, and adds the client tag. And this can also be customized to how you run your firm. We talk to firms all the time that have different naming conventions for things, have different audiences. They tier out their clients in a different way, and they want to send different email marketing emails to their tier ones, tier twos, tier threes, etc. So we're definitely all ears and listen to our clients when it comes to the customization. So this was just an example of removing them from the prospecting tag inside of MailChimp, putting them into the client tag. So keeping the list clean. And then here is the automation where when someone fills out a form on your website, we just use Wix in this example, but it can be type form, it can be jot form, it can be any sort of form that you're embedding on your website. It can be anything really. And when that happens, automatically it's going to add the person to MailChimp. It's going to create the contact in Wealthbox, create a new opportunity. And then we added that Slack example where like the sales advisors get reached out to automatically, and then they can really jump on it and call that new lead immediately. So
awesome. Thank you for getting into that. It's I love seeing all the individual actions within this, because it truly is, when you look at it, it's like, okay, looking at the example that you have up on the screen, creating the opportunity, it doesn't take long, right? It's like a couple of seconds and you create it, but that adds up, right? It's this plus creating the contact and then also updating that subscriber in your marketing tool. I love seeing all the individual pieces, and it's really, when you look at this, it's like it's just dollar signs next to each one of those actions. You're getting that time back, and as we all know, time is money. So thank you all so much for joining us, for interacting with some of the questions that are coming in. So thank you all so much for your time. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.